Hello web peeps, I'm Bobby with Madness Labs, here again with another video. This one is about something a little different. We basically have our own command line tool that we've been using internally here at Madness Labs for the past several years to build out Ionic 1 applications. We basically needed a little bit more robust tool set to allow us to make Ionic applications into progressive web apps. So we scaled this originally as a tool that we could use to help us quickly scale and build applications and kind of take a lot of the tediousness out of building apps. And then now recently we've kind of taken a new spin on it and we're trying to actually make the tool itself agnostic. So basically making it easy to build applications, whether you're working with Ionic, Angular, React, Vue, you name it. And really, we're going to get into a really simple kind of setup for today. We're just going to install the actual Madness engine. We're going to clone down a stencil application and then actually create and remove a component just to kind of get the concept behind the engine. The closest comparable software out there right now would probably be Yeoman because we, in the same way, we want to just like agnostically help you pull down and run some generators and things like that. Except we want to be a little bit more assistive. So this should be great for somebody that's an expert in the field because it just takes a lot of the tedious repetitive work out, and it'll also be great for the novice, just giving them a little bit more push in the right direction as far as how to structure an application. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. So here you can see I've got my PowerShell open or terminal on Mac, if you will. And all we need to do to install the engine is install it from npm as a global dependency. So npm install-g madness engine. And I've already got mine installed, so hopefully this goes pretty quick. But if you're new to npm or you're just wanting a recap, basically right now this is actually installing our Madness engine command line tool, and then it's going to give us a little engine command that we can actually use inside of our terminal in order to actually like run some cool commands like basically start to start a new application, add to add things onto our application, remove to remove things from our application, etc., etc. And we'll actually get into some of the actual deeper commands and the stuff that we really enjoyed using about the engine. But I wanted to keep this video short and concise and just let's install the engine, get it set up, and then start a project. So cool, I've got it installed. Currently it's on 1.1.4. That'll probably change very quickly. And if you guys enjoy this, please star us on GitHub and share it with everyone, because that's our goal here, is just to make development a little bit simpler. So I'm going to cd into my apps directory. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually run the start command. So first off, if this is your first time running the tool, you can run Enjin, and it'll actually give you the README file in the terminal, so you can kind of read through and you can see the documentation on like what the engine is, how to install it, the commands that you can run. And you can see that the first command we're going to run is start, and then we can pass in a repo, a name of our application, and then the actual editor that we want to open up. So let's actually go through that. So I'm going to clear my terminal here. So let's run Enjin start, and then I'm going to pull down Ionic team/stencil starter. So as you can see here, I'm using a GitHub link. So it's just GitHub organization / GitHub repo. You can pass in the full GitHub repository. You can use like the actual link, or you can use like a link to a custom Git repository, or you can even use you can even pass in your credentials. And all of this is in the documentation, so feel free to jump over to GitHub and check this out. And then we're going to name our application. So in this case, I'm going to say new app. And then the last parameter is optional, but basically we can just tell it a code editor that we want to open this project in. So I can say code for VS Code. And now when I click enter, it's going to clone down that repository, and then it's going to actually cd into the directory. It's going to run the npm install, and then finally it's going to open up our code editor because we've passed in that extra argument. So give it a second here, because as you may know, npm installs take a minute. And once we're done, we should see it open up in VS Code, and we should be ready to work. And note that this entire process is opt-in. We didn't want to make anything custom. Like when we originally built the tool, it was very hardwired into our build process and how we do things. So our goal here recently has been to make the tool agnostic, and so that it's actually opt-in. And so that you can do all of this stuff. You could run git clone, you could run npm install, and then you could open it up in code. But this, with one very simple command, saves you from having to run 3 different commands. So now you can see that VS Code has opened up my project and I'm ready to work. So I'm going to open up my source directory, expand it here. And if you haven't used Stencil, we have a video on that, and I'll try to post a link in the description. But basically, Stencil is a web component generator. So it generates custom elements that we can basically quickly make tiny little components that hold all their functionality, and then it makes it really easy to distribute. And they're also framework agnostic. So we feel it really meets our agenda here of making something that doesn't really require a certain framework or a certain way of building. So as you can see here, we've got the project pulled down. And so I want to add a new component. So we have in here the my name component that comes with the actual repository. I want to add a brand new component. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run another Enjin command, Enjin add component, and then we can actually name the component. So let's say your name, because that's a bomb anime movie. And then when I click enter, it actually is going to then add this your name folder, and you can see that we've got a your name SCSS file as well as a your name component, and it's already put in the basic content of this component. On top of that, it has also gone and linked it into our stencil config, into our first bundle, so that way it's completely ready to go. If we were to go about running the build on this, we could actually use that component right now. And again, jump over to our stencil video if you want to see how that works. But I'm just kind of showing the Enjin commands at the moment. So another thing we can do is we can actually do this a little bit quicker. So we can say Enjin AC for add component, and then say new name. And this will make another one. And as you see there in my stencil config, it just instantly pops in there, and we've got my new name component. So this drastically speeds up the amount of time that those mindless repetitive tasks take. It takes, 30 seconds to a minute or more to go into these places and make new files and rename everything and get it all set up properly. And even using something like VS Code with some snippets, it can still take 30 seconds to a minute to get this stuff going. So this really streamlines things and makes it really quick to get up and running. We also have the same thing in reverse, so we can do Enjin remove component, your name, and you'll see that boom, it removes the component and it deletes it, no problem. And same thing, we can also use RC instead of remove component. We can just put RC, and let's say new name, and boom, new name is gone. So one more thing I want to show, and this is kind of what makes it even more awesome. We can actually do the Enjin AC your name. Let's add your name back. And what we can do is we can actually pass in as the last argument, we can pass in a list of props that will actually use to actually scale the component. So I can say prop 1, and then I can say comma prop 2. And we can even get a little bit more fancy. We can actually use our typings here. So I can say like prop 2 is going to be a string. And now when I actually create this component, you'll see that it adds just fine like it did before. But now in our TSX file, you can see that we have these 2 props that it's automatically created. So this, again, takes a lot of the mindless repetitive work. And if we already know what our component's going to be accepting and stuff, this really speeds that process up. So that's it for this video. There's not a whole lot else to really cover. We're going to do more videos like this, smaller videos, bite-sized chunks about the Enjin, and also just kind of like start to really flesh out this tool and make it into a really useful agnostic tool that hopefully will make your lives easier. So I'm Bobby, Madness Labs. See you guys next time. Gotta catch them all.